Hello. Welcome to the Unstuck Club. Di, time's flying every 2 weeks, and it's
I
just
know.
we're here again.
Like it's like next week is like the first week in March. I'm like, when did that happen? And I know that you also have been experiencing it, but the energies at the moment are intense. Oh my word. I mean, not just as individuals, globally, there are just crazy things happening. I think it's really, people are finding it really challenging to stay grounded and centered, like keep your focus on your space. But it has been all over the place lately.
It has. It really has, and that's a whole big conversation. I put out a webinar for people to join because there's so much of this Pisces energy, and it's going to be around for a while, like right the way through 2025, all the way to 2027. So, if anyone is listening now and going, "What's going on with Pisces?" they can, reach out and figure out how to get that, because there is a lot going on. And just like a little snippet of that is that Pisces is right at the end of the line of getting to know yourself, because that's the whole point of this journey, is to, like, every time you meet up again, any kind of the loops of the sun, the loops of the moon, it's getting to know yourself. And Pisces sits in this place of deep intuition as well as deep compassion, and the compassion is supposed to be towards yourself. So when we talk about compassion, it's so many times people say, I'm deeply compassionate, and I'm like, but are you compassionate? Are you inwardly compassionate? And that's what Pisces asks. And Pisces wants us to get to the point of going, have I dug deep enough to know who I am, so that by the time I return to Aries, I can say I am, instead of figuring out this who am I? And that's why Pisces can be such a complex energy. And that's why escapism is such a big thing with Pisces, because it's the places where you don't want to look at the wisdom and the intuition and that final step of growth. And at the moment, we've got planetary event that there's not even a history of it, Di. I mean, there's not even a history of these 6 particular cosmic energies in Pisces. Like, we don't have a history of it. Have we got a history of 6 other cosmic bodies in Pisces at a certain time? 3 times in, like, our greater history. Yeah, but nothing like this. So the unknown at the moment, it's literally unknown. It's literally unknown.
That's fascinating, because, I mean, I know we're also in the 9 universal year, which is the endings, but what I've seen over the last couple of weeks since you and I last sat here and chatted is people going through very similar stuff. And so my question is, you speak about this Pisces energy and the deep compassion to the self and the unknown. What I'm seeing is it's like their stuff is coming up. Their triggers are absolutely out there, just waiting to literally be touched.
Yeah.
And it's causing chaos, but I also feel like it is clearing things out. It's like, you cannot carry on like this. The escapism that you mentioned is interesting. I've got one client who their drinking is like, their escape is looking down into a glass or a bottle, because they don't want to look at what's really coming up for them. And so what I want to understand is, so the body, all those beautiful levels of the body, these different layers of consciousness, they react to what the planets are doing. It's such a gorgeous, I know it's hectic for so many people, but it's such a beautiful process of, like, we are so much more than just this body. I think for anyone listening, if you are now feeling deep things, like, pay attention to that.
What the stars are made up of and what we are made up of. is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same. We have the same basic composition, right? And if we know that it is absolutely proven, I mean, I have at all times an app on my phone that when I am at the ocean, it shows the tides, right? So I know when it's low tide, I can walk on the beach easier because the sand is so much firmer. I can get my head into this space of it's going to be a tough walk when it's high tide, right? We absolutely, no one questions that is aligned to the moon. Absolutely no one questions that. It is proven. It is in our geography, it is in our science, it's there. And then there's this question mark about the rest of the influence and the influence on us. But so much of our body is water. So it's kind of undeniable. And the bigger thing for me is that you can have people can have a conversation with you and I, and even if they say, I absolutely don't believe this to be true, they're sitting in the energetic chaos that is aligned with the astrological energies at the moment. And what I really want to make clear, this is what I want to make so clear. The astrological alignment is not causing chaos, right? That's neutral. That's neutral. The choices and decisions that we have made as individuals every step of the way and as a collective every step of the way that has gotten us to this point is what's causing the chaos. Because we should always be moving to the place of our individual worthiness and as a collective, a higher consciousness of humanitarian values, alignment with our power to choose. And that's what the chaos is.
Okay.
Out of alignment with our own values, out of alignment with our own power to choose. And everyone has the right to choose whatever they like, right? And so much of the chaos is almost this ego illusion that what you've chosen is the right thing, where inside you, on some level, that only you will ever be able to dig into and find, is the truth that's saying, you know that this is actually an ego choice. It's just that it's safer here. And you are affirming it as your reality, but you know it's not truly your reality.
I think that's where part of the struggle is coming in for people, is feeling it inside, but being so used to conforming or going along with what everyone else expects of you, or conforming to what the family expects of you, or the way you've grown up. And you know, even those people who maybe don't have belief in anything outside the physical body, like this is the body and then it dies and you become, you know, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, even they cannot explain the feelings and the things that are happening. And I think we are in the middle of a monumental shift. We are changing as human beings, whether we want to admit it or not. And I think when you get to that point of going, who I am or what I'm doing or where I am just doesn't sit with me any longer. But then having the courage to actually take that step. I think that's where a lot of challenge is coming in. And I'm seeing many people struggling to do this on their own. And I had a conversation with a dear friend this morning who's gone through such a challenging 18 months, to the point where they were considering taking their own life, and has now put a support network in place so that they don't, if they feel themselves sliding, you know, you can feel like there's the black hole and you are holding on with your fingertips. to reach out, and they've arranged with these people. They've been very honest with a few people and said, can I phone you if I'm struggling? And their friends have said, absolutely. And I think that is really important, is to find your people.
Yes.
And some people that you've been with for a long time, you just don't gel with them any longer, and that's okay.
Absolutely. But it's very specific people, Di. It's not the people who are going to tell you what you're doing is okay when you know it's not okay, and they know it's not okay.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. And the other thing is, it's not the people who are going to help you find solutions that you are not finding for yourself, because they're just giving you their solution of what they would do in order to get out of their perception of chaos.
Yeah.
You're actually looking for people where you can just say, remind me that I am okay. Remind me that I have everything within me to get myself through this, right? Or just keep on reminding me that you are there and that I am not alone. A big part, a big like culmination of the problem can be when we do have people who are in our circle, and then it's a comfortable circle because they are just allowing the perpetuation of what's going on. At some point, a friend needs to turn around and say, this is beyond my capacity to help. I think you need to speak to a professional. This is beyond my capacity to support you, or, you know. Sometimes you even need a friend. I mean, I got a message not so long ago. I was chatting about things that I'm kind of, insecure about and trying to shift. And I've been talking about it for a long time and I haven't done anything about it. And I just got a message from this friend of mine and she was like, stop it. And I mean, it comes with a sweet emoji afterwards, but it was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I needed in that time. It wasn't a, oh, I can see that you're not ready again. Wait until you're ready. And if it takes a couple more months, that's okay. Be gentle with yourself. You don't want a friend who's you want those friends, right? But you don't want those friends climbing, into the mud with you, who are going to be too much of like, you're being too hard on yourself when you actually should be doing the brave thing and not doing it, or on the other hand, when you really and truly are being too hard on yourself and you are now you need to calm yourself down. So there needs to be kind of like a real bond of openness to say what needs to be said, and either know that you can hold space for that friend, or be honest enough to say, I can only do so much, but I need to make sure that there's someone who is more professional than me. If there's big stuff. I mean, we're not talking about little stuff. We're not talking about, high school, am I deciding whether I'm going to break up with this guy? We're not talking about that kind of stuff. We're talking about, I'm standing on the edge and I feel like I could let go of my life, and that's a big thing.
That's a good point, because in social media, the narrative is exactly that. Be kind to yourself, be gentle, don't force anything. I'll be there in the mud with you, wallow as long as you need to. But I think a true connection would be like, okay, it is like, stop it now. You've wallowed enough. And I still, I will always remember your story of when your house burnt down. And your teacher stood there and said, right, you've got 5 minutes to mourn and then pick yourself up and move on. And yes, you absolutely have to give yourself that time. And I think it's So with my friend today, there was a lot of beating herself up. Why didn't I see this? Why was I so stupid? And I was like, we do what we can with what we have at the time. And then we learn and we grow. And we came to a very interesting discussion around forgiveness. And I really wanted to get your input on this because, whenever I work with people, forgiveness always comes in and I go, you forgive the person, not for them. You're not condoning anything. You forgive so you can move on. And she follows someone on YouTube who came out and said, no, you definitely don't forgive. You don't forgive the perpetrator. You can let go, but you don't forgive. And for me, that statement was very jarring. But then when I was driving home, I was like, with everything you and I discuss, and sometimes the really deep conversations that come out, do we have to forgive? Or is forgiving, I'm judging the person? And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask Joe about this because I don't actually know if it's right. I think if the ego mind has kept them so trapped, and you see people like an event happened 50 years ago and they are still angry and it consumes their entire life. I don't think that's healthy. But can you let go and not forgive?
So this is how I've felt about this for years. And in all this, in all the processing that I've ever done with people, my main concern is that if you don't forgive yourself or others, because everything sits within your energetic system, right?
Yeah.
And some form of not forgiveness in whatever it is holds a vibration. It holds an energetic vibration. And you want to bring yourself to as calm a vibration as you can. So when I describe it, I say that your energetic system should be like a season, right? So it should be like spring or summer. Let's pick summer, right? So there's this season, and in the season you're well adjusted to the fact that some days it's going to be rainy, there might be a storm, other days it's going to be too hot, but there is this calm within you that is an adjusted energetic system and field that we have, right? Forgiveness can't plug into that because forgiveness is a vibration that holds things that are incomplete. That's what it is. Forgiveness is things that are incomplete. And you're either not forgiving someone else or you're not forgiving yourself. That's what it is. And both of those, the neutralizer for me in both of those is both of those people, whether you can't forgive yourself or whether you can't forgive the other person, each of you was responding and acting in the level of consciousness that you have or had.
Yeah.
And some people are so unaware of their wound and what their wound has done to them. We are, until we become conscious, and it takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work to live consciously. There's no Instagram post you're gonna watch that's gonna fix that in a second. There's no magic pill in this. It takes every single day consciousness, right? And some people are trying and still falling back into unconsciousness over and over and over again. Now take someone who is, and it's not even that they're not trying, it's that they don't even have the consciousness and the awareness to know that they can try or that they should try.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of unconsciousness to the realization of this. I have behaved in this way because of my wound. And I have wounded somebody else in the process.
Yeah.
Everyone is functioning from their wound until it is brought into their consciousness, processed, and you actually choose to function in a different way. Everyone's functioning from their wound. Everyone is in survival mode until you shift your nervous system and come to this understanding that life is not out to get you. Your past is not here to consistently haunt you. You have the capacity to reframe your past and change your behaviors. It takes a lot, though.
It does. I mean, I said, to her, I think someone would need a huge level of emotional and spiritual maturity to be able to truthfully say, I've let go, but I haven't forgiven. It really takes, I don't know if I could do it. For me, letting go means I've let go of what they did because I don't want it. As I say, always say to people, don't let this live rent free in your mind, because that's what it does. And the ego mind loves that. And I could see how we just kept looping back to the anger. So at the end of the conversation, she's now going to find out what she's angry at, because actually she's angry at herself. All this about everything else she's angry at. She's angry at herself for letting this, perceiving that she's let this happen to her. And it's, I watch the struggle of trying to, even when you have a level of awareness, it's when people do hurtful things to you and you look back on a life with them and you go, why didn't I see this? Why was I so stupid? That was what she kept saying. Why am I so stupid? Why am I so stupid? I said, you're not stupid. The narcissists pick their people. They pick those who are vulnerable at the time, and they know they are master manipulators. I've had a direct experience with one, and it made me question myself, like, why didn't I see this? Until I spoke to a professional who said they choose what they want you to see. It's nothing, you did nothing. But we go into this beating ourselves up, literally beating ourselves up, because we think we made a mistake and allowed this to happen. And I think goes back to forgiveness of self.
Well, it does. And the reason why it goes back to forgiveness of self is because that person has moved on in whatever kind of way, right?
Yeah.
And that person has stopped doing whatever was the bullying or whatever was the harmful behavior to you. They've now left, and now you are continuing the harmful behavior to yourself. And that's a big thing to realize. Actually, you are now perpetuating your own wound, and that is said with such kindness. I'm not saying it in the same way that it's thrown out, into social media and all. I am not saying get over yourself in any way, shape, or form.
No.
I'm saying it takes work, and that's what you and I are here for, right? This is what we are experienced in, is helping with these processes, because this is what will happen when you get to a point of understanding that the ego mind loves could have, would have, should have, right? Yeah. The ego mind keeps you in a very, very safe, protective place. And that safe, protective place is for a vital reason. It's that you don't make the same mistake again. That's why the ego mind does it, right? And there's only memory of how you felt, what you didn't get right. There's hardly any memory, unless you actually really dig for it, of where was I resilient? And what consciousness and awareness did I have, and what brave moments did I have in that? Like, we literally have to sift through all the memories to find them and pluck them out. But when you do, and when you shift that level of consciousness and you have that awareness, what instinctively happens, because you've moved yourself into your rational mind then, is that forgiveness then just naturally happens for the other person, because you get to a point of understanding that they behaved in the only level of consciousness that they had or have the capacity to respond in. Then there is this level of, I get it. It was never right. It was never right. Everything that they did was absolutely hurtful, absolutely destructive. No one is saying reframe it in any way. But the thing is that they've stopped doing that now, right? And now it's for you to say, as long as I don't energetically put it down and as long as I don't reframe it, what I'm doing to myself is I'm perpetuating that inner destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. I think the word that comes up when you spoke then is to have compassion. Like you look at the person with compassion, because it is absolutely that. They operate from what they know of the world. It goes back to that, their map of the world is not your map and it's not the world. It's just their map.
I think that right now someone who is deeply wounded by someone and is really struggling to forgive is wishing that they could come straight down this camera and find you and say there is no way that I am ever getting to a place of compassion with that person, right? It's actually it relies on the person who has been wounded and hurt to activate their inner wisdom, to activate the inner knowing, which is, we see it all the time. It's not an easy thing to do. And when you activate that wisdom, that inner wisdom and that knowing and that understanding, then the compassion will come.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, look, she did admit, she said, look, I will get there. I'm just not there yet. And the reason why is because, and it's another thing, it was such an interesting thing with emotions, because she put all the emotional stuff literally into a little box for a year while she handled all the practicalities and all the nonsense that was going on. And then went away for a lovely holiday in December, came back and had a breakdown, because this is the other thing, is those emotions don't go away. We internalize them and they fester, and they're going to come out some way. And with her, she went into a really, really dark space. And now she's going through that process. And there is always that process. It's never about, something happens to you, you think about, oh, it's okay, I'll forgive him. Like, no, I want to kill him. If I see him, I will punch him in the throat. So yes, it's not an overnight thing. It is so many layers, and it can take years, depending, as you say, on how deep the wounding and the trauma is. So yeah, it's not my intention to in any way minimize when something cruel, unkind, devastating has been done to you by someone else. But I think for peace, to have inner peace, is to hope to get to that point, as you say, of connecting with that inner wisdom, which may go, it's enough. For your peace of mind, it's enough. And then managing it in whatever way is right for you.
And then start working on self-forgiveness, if self-forgiveness is where you need to go, or start working on building yourself back up as soon as possible. One of the things that has really been perpetuated is this returning to the wound, returning to the victim, returning to the inner child. Like, nowhere in all of the messaging that's out there, it's very rare to find the messaging that says inner child work is not supposed to last a lifetime. This victim work is not supposed to last a lifetime. You are supposed to have the experience acknowledge the experience, and then start to do that work to build yourself up, and to recreate a version of yourself that will not be without the memory of that. You will always have the memory of that, right?
Yeah.
But you will not be living with this constant gaping wound of it. And your knee up, right? You had your knee.
Yeah.
I mean, how soon after that operation did they tell you to start rehab?
Like literally when I opened my eyes after I came out of theater, it's like, okay, on your feet. It's like, can't I just relax for a day? Like, no, you got to get moving.
I'm currently working on my flexibility, right? And what I've noticed is that my left leg is out of it. Now that I'm doing the you need to stand with your leg straight, I'm like, my leg doesn't actually go straight. So now as soon as I realized it, and I know it's so metaphorical, but it genuinely is what I'm going through now. My very first thought was, my mother was so busy. She was building her career. I never went to dancing. I always wanted to do dancing. If I'd done dancing, then I wouldn't be here. I mean, that was where my ego thought went immediately. I'm too smart for that. So I was like, we are where we are, right? Yeah. What do we do? And it is painful. It is painful. I am lying on the floor with my leg up on the wall, and I'm straightening that ankle and that foot, and it is painful. And we are programmed to avoid the pain, but we actually need to go through the pain.
That's so perfect to kind of round off this conversation, because it's exactly what they said to me. It is going to hurt like hell. The exercises in that first 2 weeks, I came to dread them, but they said to me, you have to go through it, because that's what will build the strength and the resilience and the flexibility. And even now, if I sit for too long, boy, this knee is so stiff when I get up, and it takes a little while to get it going. But it's exactly that. They said, the one they actually called it, I think it's called the torture pillow, where you have to have your leg on a pillow and it hangs, and you've got to let it hang for like 10 minutes. It is the worst agony ever. Strength and resilience. You've got to do it now, otherwise it's going to be weak. And I guess it's the same as the butterfly. You know, when the butterfly is in the chrysalis, if you break that chrysalis because you don't like to see it struggle, the butterfly dies, because it's pushing out of the chrysalis, pushes blood through the wings, makes it strong for life. And I think, that's so interesting that it's the struggle. That's where our growth is, as hard as it is. And I guess forgiveness is another layer of that struggle that we have to figure out for ourselves.
This is what I really want to end on. Like, literally, when we say this, we're going to say goodbye. You are not forgiving someone for them. You're forgiving someone for you.
Yeah. Here.
Good. We will see everyone next time. But in the meantime, we are here. We are like a message away to help you go through any of these processes.
Absolutely.
And with that,
until next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.